Hey, welcome back to the Manly Tech Show. My name is CJ, and what we're going to do today is we're going to turn this into this. Alrighty, so don't mind the coffee. You might want to grab a drink if you don't have one, or whatever. Sit back, relax. This should run about 8 to 10 minutes, maybe. I don't know. We're gonna see. But what we did was I took my old Acer workstation desktop that I used for my internet marketing company, and it was just old and time to be. It needed to be upgraded. But I wanted to use some of the parts out of it to build the machine, and then I kind of wanted to keep some of the parts in there to reuse for another project, which I'm gonna do here shortly. So. Anyway, what I ended up doing was basically gutting the Acer computer and just using the CPU out of it. Now, before I did this, the Acer had already been upgraded with a aftermarket power supply and aftermarket graphics card, so I could run dual displays and stuff, which I have to do for that. Anyway, but it had been upgraded previously. I upgraded RAM, added additional storage and stuff like that. So I had gotten my use out of buying an off-the-shelf Acer machine. It was just time to build a better one. So basically gut the machine, take the CPU, and put it into the case you saw. Now there'll be some B-roll rolling here, so you'll see that we use the Gigabyte motherboard, an aftermarket cooler, and the case that it's all in is a Corsair. What is it? Corsair Carbide 275R, I think it is. No tempered glass, just a plexiglass, cheapy, but it's got everything I need on it. And upgraded some fans and everything. So basically, what we have is it's a Core i5-6400, and so I went with this motherboard, which is the Gigabyte Z270P-D3. It's nothing super fancy. It is a Z series board, which is in a mono number, which indicates that you can overclock the CPU, but on an i5-6400, because it's not a K, you can't overclock, which is kind of silly to use that board. But it does give me the ability to swap out the CPU later, because that board will support the i5-6400. It's a sixth generation Intel. I can go up to a 7th generation Intel, which also supports Intel Optane memory and different things. But for this particular project, that board is fine. Maybe a tiny bit overkill, no big deal. So we have that board in the Corsair case with the i5-6400. And to cool it all down, we're going to drop boxes. Cooler Master Hybrid 212 Evo, because it's a silver cooler, it's a solid cooler, it's a cheap cooler, 25 bucks, something like that. And as you can tell in that little bit of B-roll we already rolled, that it's an all white basically build. So the silver just kind of plays off the white a little bit. I did add some case fans, because typically the fans that come with an aftermarket case aren't great if they even come with fans, and they normally need to come with one, and you really should have a little bit more than that. So what I did was I put 2 of the Airflow 120s. These are for exhausting. These are like high volume fans, I guess. One in the back, one in the top of the case, and then 2 of the SP 120s, and those are static pressure fans. So anytime you have a fan in an area that's it's either hard to suck air through or push air through, you should use a static pressure fan, because that's basically what they're designed for. So I have 2 of the static pressures in the front, just because it kind of has a closed off front, and wanted to make sure I had enough airflow coming in, and then the airflows for the rear. They are white LED. Which, they're not super fancy, but it kind of adds a little something to it. For the power supply, EVGA 550B3. I believe this guy's fully modular, 550 watt. And this also has an eco mode, which for that particular machine I was quite fond of, because it sits dormant, for 10 hours a day. It doesn't get any use because it's only used while I'm working during the day. So I wanted to make sure that when I'm not using it, like, everything can just basically shut down even more. And that's what that power supply allows. So the reason I didn't use or scavenge this power supply out of the Acer is, like I said, there were some of those parts that I had upgraded in that Acer that I want to keep in the Acer for a project down the road. So it made sense to spend 30-40 bucks on a new power supply, and no problems there. So use the CPU, we got the motherboard, case, fans, power supply, the case. Last thing is the graphics card, and this was a massive step up. I had put the Asus dual GeForce GTX 1060 6 gig, 6 gigabytes of DDR5. Why am I spitting everywhere? DDR5 memory, massively overkill because all I do on there is web design and stuff like that. Don't really need that much horsepower, but it's a white card, and again, make sure that I'm ready for the future for anything that should come down the road. Hey, while editing this video, I realized that I'm a dope and forgot to tell you that I also put 16 gigs of DDR4 3000 megahertz Corsair Vengeance LPX memory in that machine, along with a Samsung 860 EVO 1 terabyte SSD drive. The old drives from the Acer I did move over, which was a 2 terabyte Seagate, which I'm now using for storage, which used to be the boot drive, and an old Western Digital 2 terabyte drive that I'm now using for backup. The backup drive should really be 4 terabyte. Your backup drive should be bigger than what your main drives are. So I technically have 3 terabytes of drive space being backed up by 2 terabytes of storage space. So that doesn't really make sense. But anyway, so that should now round out the all the parts in this build and return you back to the stupid me for the rest of the video. Now, doing this type of build is it's easy. It's not that difficult, but it also gives me now the ability to swap out any of these parts if something should go bad, or I just want to upgrade, something new comes out, I need to add something to the machine. I don't have to worry about is it compatible, which is kind of a problem when you buy off-the-shelf computers like an Acer, an HP, a Gateway, Dell, whatever it is. When you buy them, a lot of times they'll use proprietary or boards they make just for that machine or just for them that are not compatible with most off-the-shelf stuff. So when you do it this way, you kind of release yourself from being held captive to a certain brand or whatever. So now I can pretty much put whatever I want in that machine, upgrade it however I want. I mean, if I want next year, if I want to switch to AMD instead of Intel, I can swap that motherboard and CPU, and RAM should be compatible, cooler should be compatible, everything else should be, cases, everything's compatible, so it's not a big deal. So that's one of the major advantages of doing this type of upgrade. Plus, I get to make it look cool. It's got a glass window on the side, it's all white, it's all themed now. It looks really nice in my office, which the office is all white and gray and black basically, so now the computer even matches everything else. And as you can see too in that, there was cable mods, white cable extensions in there, so I just tried to really make it as white as possible and make it all make sense. So if you were thinking about, or you have an older machine and you're like, oh well, I wonder if I can just use a lot of the parts, like that CPU is $250 part. So if you think about it, you could save a little bit of money. I mean, you can go a lot cheaper than what I did and still build your own machine. If you have, if you're able to use some of the parts. I mean, if you're able to use the power supply or the CPU out of it, the hard drive out of it, and you just buy a new motherboard, case, motherboard and case, maybe a power supply. I mean, it depends on what brand it is. Like a lot of the Acer computers use just a standard ATX power supply, which you could technically pull out as long as it's still working. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot more flexible doing it this way. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Yeah, so if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you thought it was complete shit, you can hit that dislike button. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any videos that are coming out. Follow us over on Twitter, or follow me over on Twitter. There's no us here. Just follow me over on Twitter. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.